In the last video that I shared, I talked a little bit about a transformation executive sharing with me how frustrated and surprised he was that so many people in the transformation initiative he was leading had adopted a passive stance and hadn't actively moved towards making the change happen in their individual roles and in other parts of the organization. If we can accept that being passive is the dominant response that most people will exhibit in organizations, then we realize we can't change that reaction. That's probably unreasonable for us to expect that people will readily and willingly move forward with the change with a lot of enthusiasm. More likely, they'll just go along with things as they're presented, but they're not going to take a lot of action or be enthusiastic in the way that perhaps we'd hope they'd be. Well, if we accept that, then what can we do? So I asked this question to the executive, and I framed that in the last video. I want to explore a little bit today about what we can do if we accept that most people will be passive in response to any kind of change. So I think for me, thinking about this encourages me to look at how the landscape in a little bit of a different way. So rather than thinking, how am I going to get other people to change? I need to focus on how do I change my strategy and how I'm responding, knowing that these things are the case. So if I accept them as a constant, what might I do to work with that? To help the organization move in the direction it needs to go. So some of these things could involve looking differently at our change strategy. They might include shifting the environment. So if water follows a path of least resistance and people who are responding to change in a passive way will also follow the path of least resistance, how do we shape the environment to make that possible, to move along with the change without creating the need for a lot of specific action? The other thing that I'd be curious about is how am I showing up myself? So where's my sense of urgency coming from? What have I done to communicate the reasons for change, to share the context? And am I appraising the situation in a way that is honoring the context, the information that other people have, and the need for communication all across? So as we're thinking about these things, we have to get really creative in how we might approach change situation. And if we're maybe the lone person who's pushing for a change, this can be really, really difficult to do. So we might still feel stuck knowing that, okay, most people are going to be passive, knowing that the only levers that we may have might involve changing our strategy, seeing if we can change something about the environment, or changing something about our own behavior or perspective. If you're thinking about, some of this sounds familiar to me, I'm feeling a little bit stuck myself, I'd like you to stay tuned for the next video where I'll share a perspective on what to do there when we're really needing to be creative but not sure where to turn for inspiration.